What I'm going to be demonstrating is different ways to place foils in the hair. So going from like your finest slice all the way to like a macro balayage. Okay, so I'll be showing a few different ways, more than a few, but several different ways to put foils in the hair. So I'm going to do a baby light using my Dreamweaver comb. So with this you have your different ridges that take your weave for you, like this. So what can you do when you have someone with a dark base color and they want it lighter than their natural base? So they want a base color that's all over lighter. So this works. You can use a color to lift it if the client wants warmth and they'll suit it, okay? So if they would suit a base color that's on possibly the reddish side or the golden side, then you can use a color to lighten it all over if their hair is natural, okay? So as a retouch, you'll be able to like touch up their regrowth to lighten it. However, like you said, there's color on the ends. That means we're gonna have to pre-lighten that color off of it first, okay? Like to achieve the color that we want. Now, however, if the client won't suit a warm hair color, like if reddish tones or gold tones are something that they don't want to see in their hair or it's not going to suit them, then I don't really recommend lightening someone's base color all over. Because when we lighten someone's base color using it, like just using a regular color, we're going to see the underlying pigment eventually regardless, no matter what. So no matter how ash of a tone we use to lift it, eventually whatever their underlying pigment is going to show through. So unless you want warmth, lightening someone's base color all over isn't really the best idea. But what I do, and I think I have a mannequin that I can show you, is you can do a lot of highlights and then tone it. Okay, so what you're looking at here is, okay, so it's also not toned, keep in mind, that's why it's a little bit on the warmer side. But what you're looking at here is actually a level 4 mannequin with a lot of skinny baby lights in it, and it's not toned. So this is what level 4 plus gold highlights mixed together looks like. So if what you could do is, I use that as a bowling ball after the I use it as a football too. So what you could do is lighten the hair like this and then tone it with like a cooler tone, like a light brown or something, like a cool light brown or dark blonde, and then it will give you that lighter base color. It's a lot more work, but the color's a lot more pleasing when you do it that way. Hopefully that answered some questions about that. Like, I know it was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, when we're lightening the base color, if we want a cool tone, I recommend doing the baby light method, where you baby light all the hair and then kind of tone it to the desired tone of the lighter shade that you're going for, okay? All right, so for my next row of baby lights, I'm just going to take a finer subsection on that and then get nice and close to the camera. Now what I'm going to do is just pre-slice where my weaves are going to be and then take them with my comb . Okay, then I'm going to start painting a little bit away from the root so I can get most of that lightener onto the hair on the ends first. Then I won't have as much left on the edge of my brush, and then I can just lightly paint the top. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more rows. Another way we can take our weave is, instead of pre-slicing it, I can just bounce on the top of the section, weaving the highlights from the top. Okay, but it's important to weave them just from the top of the section and not going too deep down underneath or underneath into the section. Okay, just so it's like, it remains as a fine slice with weaves in it if you just skim them off the top. Okay, now I'm going to go back to using the Dreamweaver. So I pre-slice it, then take the weave. You want your pre-slice to be finer, or thick as that, or finer. And then just a reminder, I am using real lightener this time, so we're going to be able to see how this looks after it's processed. What I'll do is I'll just keep this mannequin around as an example as to how the different foil placements look in the hair. Like in this section I'm doing my baby lights, and then on the other side I'm going to do slices, and then we're going to get into more of our macro lights and backcombing, diffusion, and balayage, foilage looks. Okay, so one more baby light here. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate some slices. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slice out a really pin size slice here right at the hairline, just to show you what a slice at the hairline looks like. If you were to do this consistently around the hairline, you could create something like a Scandinavian hairline, as long as they're nice and fine. Okay, even finer than this. Alright, so I'm just going to take a subsection on top that's going to be about just double the width of what my slice is going to be. Okay, so that I have about the same amount of hair underneath as I do on top. Just a little bit more in between there. So I want my slices to be as fine as the pre-slice that I took from my baby lights on the other side. It's just we're putting the whole section in foil, so not weaving it. This is another method. You could do a full set of slices like this for when you're pre-lightening someone's hair, to do like an all-over lightening, like what we were talking about, where I recommended that instead of pre-lightening, like doing the entire base color lighter, you could just do slices mixed in with the natural color and then tone them to a soft color, and that will lighten up someone's hair all over but still look fairly uniform. Okay, so a full head of fine slices like this doesn't necessarily look like highlights. It actually creates kind of like a uniform look, depending on the toner that you put on. Okay, so I'll just put one more slice here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is do a few more rows of a heavier weave. Okay, something a little bit more heavy that you kind of see the individual highlights a little bit better. So this isn't quite a macro light, but it's just going to be a heavier weave. So what I'm going to do is just take my weave, zoom in here a bit. So when I bounce on the top of the section, I'm going to go down a little further, like the width of a toothpick there. Okay, see how those are a little bit heavier? You kind of see the definition of them a little bit more. So this is more of your classic weave. So when we take them this size, this is when we're going to start to notice a little bit more contrast. Okay, so you're going to see slightly heavier sections of highlights and then slightly heavier sections of the natural left in between. Okay, so not quite as uniform as the two looks that I showed underneath. I'm just weaving down kind of like as deep as a toothpick and having the highlight strands about double the width of a toothpick. Okay, so we're going to put one more foil after this one using these regular weaves. And then we'll go to the other side and we'll do something a little bit heavier. I'm going to show you back home diffused singles, which is kind of how we create more of a ribbon look, okay? So we'll do one more of these regular weaves and then I'll show you that ribbon look. Okay, so as a reminder, this is our regular weave I'm doing. So just taking a subsection that's roughly kind of double the size of the foil I'm going to be putting in, just so we're leaving a little bit of depth underneath. All right, let's go over to this side. What's my secret to picking up the foil, like when it's in the pile? Maybe like I kind of have them a little bit like spread out, so you can just kind of spread your foils out a bit, just so that the edges aren't all packed together. Is that what you mean? What I showed was weaves just in 4 foils. I'm showing different placements of foil throughout the head, just so afterwards I can rinse this out and then actually go and show you the area of like baby lights, regular weaves, slices down here, and now I'm going to move on to ribbons. So how to create those ribbon type highlights in these foils here. Alright, so let's do some ribbons. So when we're going to take ribbons, or more like a macro light, let's take a heavier section, so like kind of like a 1/2 inch, something like that. Okay, nice and heavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some heavy weaves, but I'm going to do it kind of visually. I want to like see how I can see some separation. I'm going to take my weaves from about down here, just so I can start to visualize those ribbons I'm going to try to create. Okay, so you can see them right here. I've got 3 ribbons. And then what I'm going to do to diffuse the top of it, just so that these ribbons look like they're melting from the hair and they don't look like a big chunk, I'm going to diffuse the top 2 inches. So I'm just pushing up the hair, that would be about 2 inches or so, holding it with tension down here and then pushing that hair up. Okay, so it should be just a little bit of back combing. I'm not starting from all the way down, I'm only doing just a little bit at the top. That will just help with your melt at the very top of the highlight. You're distracted by the shorts. Alright. So then place your foil to the top of this section, and then just push up a little bit more of that back combing. So now I have access to about this high up on this section. So not quite to the top. It's going to be a little bit lived in. And then we're just going to start to paint down here and fully saturate all the hair from this level down. And then once I've done that, I'm going to just start to climb using slightly lighter brush strokes, just to create a nice organic, unstructured line at the top here. Okay, so see how that looks close up? Just very blended, very melted. Okay, so that's an example of a ribbon. So when we're doing ribbons, contrast is key. So I'm going to take my next foil for my ribbon highlight a little bit higher up. Okay. So the next one would go from the front. Okay, to the back. If we want, we can do these in 2 foils just to make it easier on ourselves. I'm going to take a ribbon right in the front, leave some space, and I'll take one right there. Okay, again, we're going to diffuse the top of our highlight. Okay, if I've missed any questions or comments, just repeat them. I'm not always looking at the screen. So again, saturate from lower down first. You want to make sure, just to avoid any kind of spottiness, that we really saturate this hair on the ends. Alright, so now at this point, I'll start blending up using vertical strokes. And then just lessen up on your brush pressure as you climb higher. Blend that down. Alright. Just gotta confirm something. There we go. I like to take my weaves a little bit down at the bottom just so I can kind of visualize how they're going to be behaving. And then diffuse the top 2 inches. Well, bleaching your own hair, and I often say this when I'm asked about that, is it is quite a task to bleach your own hair. And I usually tell people that it's really hard. Try not to do it. Like, really try to get someone to help you when you're bleaching your hair, or go to a professional. But I also, saying that, I try to give as much information about how it's done as possible. So I do have a video that explains the steps to take when bleaching the hair. But let me just say, it takes practice. It's easier said than done. Even the information I am giving about lightening the hair, I might make it seem a little bit easier than it is. It takes practice with your applications. Also want to be using really fine sections when you're applying the lightener, like 1/4 inch. What highlight? So right now I'm working on like a blended macro light, or also known as like ribbons. Okay, I'm creating the ribbon look with these macro lights. Okay. So with the next row, I'm going to leave a little bit more depth again. So I'm going to take my section a little bit larger. I was taking it kind of like half of an inch. Let's go bigger than an inch this time. Okay, let's do it in 2 parts. So I'm just going to weave down halfway through to the section. So I'm not going to pick up my weaves all the way through, only halfway, so that you can see that there's hair underneath my ribbon that I picked up. Okay, so they're not back to back underneath. There's some hair left in between. And then again, just diffuse the top of the section. Thanks for the follow, God Chaser. Okay, so before I fold it up, I just want to show you this is what the top of that highlight should be looking like when you feather that color on. Angel, thank you for the compliment. I try my best and I enjoy teaching and sharing whatever I have in my little brain. Okay. I'll just take 2 more ribbons here, something like this, and diffuse the top.